Hi, fourth grade. Today we're doing lesson 11. Our objective in lesson 11 is to compare and order mixed numbers in various forms. Let's get started right away with the application problem. Turn your books to page 81, please, in your blue Learn books. While sewing, Kikanza cut 3 strips of yellow fabric, of colored fabric. A yellow 2.8-foot strip, an orange 2 8/8 foot strip, and a red 2 25/100 foot strip. She put the shortest strip away in a drawer and placed the other 2 strips side by side on a table. Draw a tape diagram comparing the lengths of the strips on the table. Which measurement is longer? Okay, there's a lot to do here. So let's look again. She has cut 3 strips of colored fabric, 2 8/10 of a foot. Yellow, 2 8/100 foot. Orange, and 2 25/100 red. So let's draw some tape diagrams to compare these. You need to look in your tenths place first because the digits in the ones place is 2 in every measurement. These are all 2 and something feet long. So let's draw a tape diagram. We need to find and eliminate the smallest, shortest piece of fabric, right? We have yellow, 2.8 foot, 2 8/10 foot, orange, 2 8/100 foot, and a red 2 25/100 foot. Put the shortest strip away. So whatever is shortest, we need to eliminate it completely, and then we need to draw a tape diagram comparing the lengths of the strips on the table, the other 2 strips side by side. Which measurement is longer? So we need to find the longest and the shortest. Basically, we need to compare all 3 of these strips and understand how they relate to each other. So looking in the tens place, right, what I see is that the orange strip is going to be the smallest, right? There are 0/10 in the orange strip. Yellow and red both have some amount of tenths in that place. So 2 8/100 is the smallest. We can eliminate the orange strip completely because it's the smallest. So we're comparing the other 2 strips side by side. We need to draw a tape diagram. Plenty of room. Make it nice and big. Two 25/100 is red. 2 8/10 is yellow. Remember that the abbreviation for feet or foot is FT. That's our yellow tape diagram. And 2 25/100, we know by looking first in the tenths place, if there's a 2 in the tenths place, whoops, I did it again. Here, that the red strip will have to be smaller, shorter than the yellow strip, because the digit in the tenths place is smaller. So we have a tape diagram comparing the lengths of the strips on the table. And now we need to answer the question, which measurement is longer? And we can write that the most complete answer you could give is the yellow strip is longer because (2 8/10 feet is longer than 2 25 hundredths feet. Okay, let's take a look at the problem set on page 83. That's where you're going to see some of the problems that you're going to have on your exit ticket. Number 1 says plot the following points on the number line. The tricky part is they give you these values written 2 different ways, in decimal and fraction form. So we need to be able to read these values both ways and compare them. And since our number lines are written in decimal form, we're going to need to take our fractions and rewrite them as decimals. Okay, so our first value is 2/10. Look carefully. The points in your number line are not marked 1, 2, and 3. They're marked 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10. Note the decimal, right? So 2/10 is easy. They've already got it written in there. All you have to do is plot the point. You don't even have to write that one. It's written for us. 1/10. Where do you find 1/10 on the number line? It's written as a decimal, but it's right there. That's another one we don't have to write down. So that's 2, done. Our next is 33 hundredths. Where is 33 hundredths on the number line? Look in the tenths place first, right? If there's a 3 in the tenths place, we know it's going to be more than 3/10, but less than 4/10. No matter what's in the hundredths place, that can't make that 3 worth more than 4 or even equal to 4/10. It can only be worth 3/10 and some hundredths. So where is 3/10 and 3/100ths? Go to 3/10 and count 3. 1, 2, 3. 3/10 and 3/100ths. This one we need to mark. Done. 12 hundredths. Where can we find 12 hundredths? That's 1/10 and 2 hundredths. Remember that these little lines are hundredths. The big lines mark the tenths, and in between each tenth is 10 hundredths. So 12 hundredths is 1/10 and 1 2 hundredths. 0.12, 12 hundredths. Our next value is 21 hundredths, 2/10 and 1/100th. I'm just going to write this one up here to be clear. 21 hundredths. Our next value, 32 hundredths. Notice how close that's going to be to 33 hundredths. They're written different ways, but the values are very close to each other. 32 hundredths is just 1/100th less. And written as a decimal, look like that. B and C get a little tricky because you see fractions and mixed numbers, right, that have a value that is more than 1. All these values here in part A are less than 1, but now we have values that are more than 1. Here's a mixed number. In fact, they're all worth in between 3 and 6/10 and 3 and 9/10. They all have to fall somewhere on this number line. And remember that for a number like 364 hundredths, you're going to be separating out holes in a number bond if you need to. For every 100 hundredths, you have a hole, so you end up with 3 and 64 hundredths. 3 6/10 and 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. And that as a decimal number would be 3.64. That's that last one right there that I did first. 38/10, again, in a number bond, you would have 38/10 separated out, 30/10, which is 3, which we really already know because each of these numbers begins with 3 holes. And then we have 8/10 left over. So we have 3 and 8/10. Mark here. Uh, 3 and 85 hundredths, that's going to be 3 as a decimal. That would look like this, right? 3 and 8/10 plus 5 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3.85. Uh, 3 and 7/10, 3 and 62 hundredths, right? 3 and 7/10 is already marked for us. 3 and 62 hundredths, we know, well, that'll just be 2 hundredths less than 3 and 64 hundredths, which we already have marked. So we can go backwards 1, 2, 3, and 62 hundredths. Let's take a look at page 84. We have to order these numbers in order from greatest to least using the greater than symbol. On page 84, number 2A here, okay, you have to do this on your exit ticket, so we need to make sure we can understand what we need to do here. Arrange the following numbers in order from greatest to least using decimal form. Use the greater than symbol between each number. So we need to make them all the same. I think it's much easier to compare them if they're all written the same way. So let's change our fractions to decimals. 27/10. I see 2 holes in there. I see 20/10. That's 2 and 7/10. As a decimal, we can rewrite that like this. 27 hundredths, 0.27. 2 and 71 hundredths is 2.71. And 227 hundredths is 2 and 27 hundredths. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 values that we need to order from greatest to least. So let's look at the values that have a 2 in the ones place first. I see 2 and 7/10, 2 and 71 hundredths, 2 and 27 hundredths, and 2 and 72 hundredths. 2 and 72 hundredths is largest because it has the largest value after the decimal point. Compared to the other numbers that have 2 in the ones place, which is 2 and 71 hundredths and 2 and 70 hundredths, or 2 and 7/10. So our first value is 2 and 72 hundredths. We're using the greater than symbol. Greater than 2 and 71 hundredths. Greater than 2 and 7/10. which you could also look at that like 2 and 70 hundredths if it helps you to order them. Next we have 2 and 27 hundredths, 2 and 2/10 7 hundredths, and that's greater than 2 and 7 hundredths, which is greater than 27 hundredths, which we know is smallest because that's the only value that has a 0 in the ones place. Everything else has a 2 in the ones place. Here the 2 is in the tenths place. So for number 2A, your paper should look like that.